This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
City Attorney Doctor.
Here.
City Manager Burton.
Here.
Commissioner Dean.
Here.
Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Shurtleff.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our minutes for 4/19/23, 4/24/23 were received. Do we have any comments or corrections? The minutes will stand as submitted. Consent agenda, one motion. Final passage of an ordinance amending City of Helena Ordinance Number 3097 and the official zoning map of the City of Helena that changes the zoning district from R2 residential to R4 residential for properties legally described as the north half of Lot 13-16 in Block 39 of Broadwater Addition, and the south half of lots 13-16 in Block 39 of the Broadwater Addition, both to the City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County. Discussion, Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve consent agenda item A.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk.
I have no public comment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Shurtleff.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Commission proposals from commissioners. What say you?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
this last week I attended the Fire Ops 101 in Boise, Idaho, thanks to the IAAFF 448 and the Helena Fire Department and Captain Mike McDaniel. I want to thank them for the opportunity to attend Fire Ops 101 to learn more about what Helena's bravest do every day. So thank you very much.
So what did you learn?
Well, I learned that fire is very hot, and I was not cut out to be a firefighter. It's like wearing a sleeping bag in 500 degrees heat. It was incredible. I appreciate the opportunity to attend.
Thanks, Commissioner. Report of the City Attorney.
Mayor, Commissioners, I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Report of the City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, I'd like to take a few minutes and report on the status of the swimming pool budget.
Please.
As you know, we're in fiscal year 23, and really due to temporary salary adjustments and other considerations, we're sitting right now at $43,000 overspent in the budget. I think that, just a rough estimate, if the commission chooses to maintain the status quo, hours, et cetera, it would probably cost $100,000 to close out the year. And then, of course, starting July 1 is the new FY24 budget, and the commission's not made any final decisions relative to funding with that budget. So I guess I would open it up for discussion. Mayor, if the commission comes to some consensus and directs me to put together a budget resolution, then I would so proceed.
Okay, thank you, Manager Burton. I see Commissioner Reed, your hand's up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for the manager. I had originally heard a $40,000 overage, and now it's 100. So could you help me understand the overage and through what period of time that goes, and when the new numbers would kick in? Just because I seem to be a little confused. Thank you.
Yep. Mayor, Commissioner Reed, I think it is 43.
Okay.
Presently, I see Ms.
Director Danielson is coming to the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Currently, as of today, the pool is overspent by $43,000. They're proposing, in order for training costs, in order to get ready for the next year, that it's going to cost another $80,000 to the city. That would put them, $123,000 over budget in fiscal year '23, and that does not address the proposed, if the commission chooses to have the pool open as status quo, we would have to allocate likely another $80,000 to $100,000 to next year's budget to keep the pool going as status quo.
Right.
Thank you, Director Danielson. Commissioner Reed, are you okay?
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I might, just a quick question. So the 40,000 we're over as of today is a result of last season's activities? And if we're doing the extra 80 to prepare for the season that would begin in June, and then we would need another 80 to 100,000 for the following year. Again, the timeline is a little bit confusing, and I'm just trying to understand ongoing what a budget for the pool open on the weekends would look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. So we've currently budgeted with a scaled back schedule in the fiscal year '24 budget. Regardless of whether we scale that back or not, they have to spend money to train up their staff before the pool opens. So that is going to add the additional costs in fiscal '23 that weren't budgeted for. That would then be the same for fiscal year '24. So on average, we look at the expenditures. They as status quo. They over the prior year, before the wages were increased, over a $200,000 increase in their annual operating budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Wait, one minute, Commissioner. Are you done, Commissioner Reed?
Yes, I'm sorry. I said thank you, but I spoke at the wrong moment. Thank you. That clarifies my question.
Thank you, Commissioner Dean.
So, Mr. Mayor, if there were interest from the commission, I think I would propose that we maybe consider asking staff to draft some sort of resolution or amendment to the budget to use ARPA funds to buy us some time. I think that the Parks Department has shown through the golf course and the Civic Center that if we give them enough lead time, they can turn around a pretty solid business plan that writes some of our operations in a better direction, and then also meets some of the requests to ensure that we have the pool open at those formerly regular hours, but the weekend hours. And I guess the final request would be, part of the issue is that we are required by state law to have so many staff on hand given the pool safety precautions. So are there some ways that we can close off parts of the pool or not? I think that might be a question for when we get closer to the end of the FY24 budget. But I would propose that we utilize ARPA dollars to close out the current fiscal year and then ensure operations through the summer to buy us some time and have a solid plan going into the next summer's swim season.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to add, and I'm sure you guys can be creative, so I think we should look into this and see how best we can be very creative in, there was some ideas thrown around before, and I still think it's a viable idea where we charge according to where we're from. Because the city of Helena cannot continue to bear the brunt of everybody in the county. We need to start looking at that. The same thing with the golf course. We're doing the same thing. And I think we're bleeding dry. So we got to look at some creative ways to see how best we can make this work.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
thank you. I gotta say, I'm supportive of Commissioner Dean's idea about the use of ARPA money, although and I don't say this with any disrespect at all, but I'm not wild about the idea of one-time money sort of being used for an ongoing expense. But I think we're at a point where, and I've heard from some members of the public about, the proposed hours changes and shortening of the season and so forth. And I think it's pretty clear that the pool is a valued resource by the community. And absent, well, I just think it's a difficult time to try to make some significant creative decisions with the opening so close. And so I think the ARPA idea certainly gives the potential for, helping staff and the community really to have the pool status quo as it has been, as the community is accustomed to it. And so I'd be open to Commissioner Dean's idea. Again, not wild about it principally, but I think it could buy us some time. And I think it's fair that, maybe we, at some point in the near future, have a more robust discussion about how we kind of arrived where we're at. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner. Commissioner Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also echo what Commissioner Logan said. I would prefer not to use ARPA for this. However, if we're unable to find savings in other places to adjust for this year, if that is our only hope, then I would support that. I do think it's important also just for the community, given the number of calls and emails I've gotten on the subject, if we could get some clarity, because the website currently does say that it will be closed on weekends. So I think to the extent that we're able to make some decisions and communicate to the public whether or not the pool will be open on weekends and what the season will be, I think that would be great. I know there's some very nervous parents out there right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to echo the commissioner's statements. This pool is a cornerstone of our community. And if this proposal can buy us some time and get us through the fiscal year and help us prepare for fiscal year 24, I think this one-time use of ARPA funds could be useful. And also, too, I agree with Commissioner Reed that we need to communicate with the public what we're doing and how we're looking to fix this. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is your report, are you done with your report?
I am, Mayor, and I've got the direction I believe I need. Thank you.
Okay. Communications from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Joe Lehman, you have the floor. Madam Clerk?
There we go. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Last week, HCC had an in-person.
Can you raise up your volume, please? You're very low.
Oh, let me pardon. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Last week, HCC had an in-person only meeting at the Civic Center. It was our first one in, I think, about a year, to hold a strategic planning session that went really well. We set our priorities for the coming year. We still have some work to do with that, but we're off to a good start. We also began our preliminary work on city budget reviews, and we look forward to presenting the commission with our recommendations. So thank you.
Thank you. Comments or questions for Representative Lehman? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Regular items, consider a resolution distributing Railroad Urban Renewal District Tax Increment Financing Fund to City of Helena's Transportation Systems Department, Family Outreach Incorporated, and Ray Coons Development LCC to install sidewalks, crosswalks, and parking improvements in the vicinity of Helena and Gallatin Avenues. Manager Burton or Planner Ray or Director Brink, you have the floor.
Apologies, Mayor and Commission. I was being asked questions about the pool. Tonight, you're being asked to consider a resolution for distribution of railroad tax increment financing dollars. These dollars will be used to make sidewalk, crosswalk, and parking improvements along Helena and Gallatin Avenues in the 6th Ward. This application was submitted on August 8th of 2022. It had been percolating for a while before we actually did receive it. There was a lot of coordination with transportation system staff over the proposal. And out of this effort, what the district will gain is 26 additional on-street parking spaces by installing angled parking along both Helena and Gallatin Avenues as shown in the application materials. Additionally, through the striping of those new spaces on Helena, it will actually serve as traffic calming by necking down the travel lanes on that route. Gallatin will actually be converted into a one-way street going west from the intersection of Helena and Gallatin over to North Cook. And at that intersection, Family Outreach, one of our local nonprofits, owns a number of properties there, and they will actually piggyback on this effort by installing some new parking spaces. In addition to those parking items, there's going to be the installation of a new sidewalk segment at 1314 Helena Avenue. We have gotten the full support from the property owner, the Marlows, to do this, and this is going to be hugely beneficial for pedestrian connectivity in the area. And at the end of that, at the corner of the property, they're actually going to install a bulb out, and at that bulb out, they're going to have crosswalks going across both Helena and Gallatin Avenues to serve all those businesses in that area. The total cost of this is projected to be over $260,000. The application request was for 50% of that, which comes to $130,033.80. And when the Railroad TIF Advisory Board met on August 18th in 2022, they unanimously recommended approval. So those are the nuts and bolts of what the proposal is. I did want to note that, as with my last presentation, for a railroad TIF application, there are some changes that need to be made to the draft resolution that came before you. So I will coordinate with the city attorney's office on that. There are 4 areas that, to my knowledge, need amending, just to reflect that transportation systems are not an applicant on this, actually. It's just Family Outreach Incorporated and Ray Coons Development LLC. We do have representation from both those entities here tonight. So Brad Kuhn is here on behalf of Ray Coons from Triple Tree Engineering, and we also have Jackie Moeller from Family Outreach. So if you have questions of me or of them, we are happy to answer those for you. And again, apologies.
Thank you, Planner Ray. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple. For Ms. Ray, so when we're making these improvements, how do they then play into the master plan for the area moving forward? Do we just account for them, like that those improvements have already occurred?
Mayor and Commission, if I'm understanding your question correctly, that actually, these particular improvements weren't called out as such in the Urban Renewal District Plan. But it is something that is in alignment with the goals and objectives of that plan, as noted in the materials for this evening. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Yep, that's what I was asking. And then the other question was, I read in the minutes, this obviously happened last August.
Yes.
So what's the timeline for completion now?
Now things will get completed this summer. They actually, I believe, and I will defer to Brad Kuhn on this point, but I believe that they've actually started some of the work.
Okay.
Right now, where they were intending to have started it sooner. And just to clarify, the reason for the holdup was actually needing to coordinate with the Marlows, the property owners at 1314 Helena Avenue, to assure that we had buy-in for this effort.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
just a clarifying question. Ms. Ray, you indicated that the City of Helena's Transportation Systems Department is not part of this, correct?
Mayor and Commission, yes, that's correct. They, so at least for the purposes of the resolution, they're not going to be receiving funding directly from this effort. The applicants will be taking that on, but they have been coordinating with them for, I want to say, about a year and a half on this design and this proposal, possibly longer.
Go ahead.
So in any motion, just leave them out of it? Is that,
Mayor and Commission, yes.
Okay,
That would be
thank you.
correct. And I think it's safe to just strike out, after it says financing funds to, just strike out the portion entirely about transportation systems and move directly to Family Outreach Incorporated, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no public comment online.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I would move to approve a resolution distributing Railroad Urban Renewal District tax increment financing funds to Family Outreach Incorporated and Ray Kuntz Development LLC to install sidewalks, crosswalks, and parking improvements in the vicinity of Helena and Gallatin Avenues.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Dean?
Aye.
Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider first passage of an ordinance amending Helena City Code Title 11, Chapter 2, Section 11-2-3, Table 1, 11-2-4, Land Use Definition for Zoning District, and 11-2-5 Supplemental Requirements of the City of Helena zoning regulation as they relate to marijuana sales and operations. Manager Burton and/or Director Brinks, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. In the interest of time, I do have a PowerPoint, but not to rehash this. We'll bring this back up for final pass and public hearing in 2 weeks. I'll just hold that PowerPoint presentation for that time if you'll allow me to. So tonight before you is an ordinance, draft ordinance recommending some changes to our zoning requirements, specifically the land use table and definitions, supplemental requirements for the zoning ordinance to permit adult use marijuana facilities and operations in the city. In November of 2020, through Initiative 190, the citizens voted and elected to allow adult use operations in the state and specifically within Lewis and Clark County as a green county. Those provisions were codified in January or 2021, effective January 1st of 2022. And that is known as the Montana Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. And basically what that allowed was for non-medical operations to be permitted effective January 1st of 2022, with a caveat that existing holders of medical licenses could convert their licenses to recreational adult use permits. Your license had to be in good standing, and you had to be in compliance with MCA Department of Revenue rules and local ordinances in effect as of January 1st. Part of that Regulation and Taxation Act did provide for July 1st of 2023 that DOR would open up applications for anybody, even those that did not have prior licenses, to be able to operate in the city. Those were segregated into sales, cultivation, manufacturing, and transporters. And again, it opens it up for any operations or operators not currently or formally licensed by the state. We've made some changes to, or recommended changes to the land use table, like I said. Allows cultivation, dispensaries, manufacturers, testing labs, transporter facilities within certain zoning districts, mirroring what we have in the current ordinance, but some changes. Grow operations are now cultivation operations. We've permitted them by right now in CLM and CUP, which originally they were conditional use permits. And then we've provided for manufacturers only to be operated in the MI district. The zoning ordinance, or the recommended changes, adds 7 definitions, and again, those come from the MCA. Zoning ordinance recommendation or changes does revise the supplemental requirements to allow and address adult use sales and operations. Not many changes. We have added to distance requirements some provisions from distances from daycares, public buildings, and parks. Same for cultivation, where we've added daycare to the distance requirements, as well as public building and parks. For cultivation, and this is part of why we eliminated the conditional use permit, we've placed these into what we felt were appropriate zoning categories or zoning districts based on the canopy size or the size of the operation. So a Tier 1 canopy, by definition from the state, is anything less than 1,000 square feet. We've allowed that as permitted use by right in the CLM. And anything larger from a cultivation facility, if it's a Tier 2 or above, we've permitted that as a use by right in the MI district. All operations have to be indoors, must be secured and locked, and then we've added provisions for air discharge and ventilation systems for cultivators. And like I said earlier, existing operations are permitted to continue as grandfathered uses in their location, provided they stay the same size. On April the 11th of this year, the Zoning Commission recommended some changes, and you see those in your packet. Since then, within collaboration with the City Attorney's Office, we've made some minor alterations to the draft recommendations. Didn't change the substance of the requirements. Just followed some of the minimum state statute requirements, so we felt we needed to include those. And you see those in blue were the city attorney recommended changes. So to conclude, the staff does recommend first passage of this draft ordinance tonight, and then again on May 22nd, you'll see this for final passage and a public hearing. By state statute, we have to have this in place by June the 30th to allow these operations to apply to the state on July the 1st. If we don't have these provisions in place, the way our ordinance is structured, they will not be permitted within the city.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question. So on, in some of the new language, one of the items, it's, well, on page 110 of our agenda packet, but it's number 2, under distance and location. It talks about the public building, facility, or park owned by the city of Helena. I'm thinking of a couple places that downtown in particular, that seem close to city-owned parks. Would they not have fallen under that before, or do we know?
So we've identified 4 facilities or 4 operations that would have to be under the grandfathered provisions of this ordinance.
Okay.
They're not within city facilities, but they are within some parks. Particularly, there's a couple that are on Lindale, one that's on East Broadway, one that's on Last Chance. There's a couple that were permitted that probably shouldn't be permitted by the state anyway. They didn't want to divulge that, but maybe shouldn't have been.
Okay.
But we would allow those to be grandfathered with only the provision of this ordinance applicable if they decided to enlarge.
Okay, one more follow-up, Mr. Mayor. With those, if they're grandfathered in and say the owner decides to close operations, if they sell the business, does that grandfathering clause continue, or would they have to move their location?
So the license by the state is non-transferable.
Okay.
So we would consider that as now a new permitted use. They'd have to go back through the process.
Great, that answers my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Director Brink, you had mentioned the facility, the growing operation must be inside or indoors, and you said it must be secure. Can you go into depth on that security?
So those security measures are part of the state statute requirements, DOR. I'm not sure 100% what that would entail, but we would rely on the state to provide direction on what's they consider secure. We just mirrored what was in the state statute regarding it. This got to be secure.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I've got a follow-up.
Please.
Thank you. Director Brink, thank you for the answer. Also, too, on page 110, it states within 1,000 feet or on the same street as a public or private K through 12 school or any daycare facility. Have you identified any businesses or schools that are within that range that would fall under the grandfather clause?
Yeah, so one that I mentioned was one that's down here on Last Chance Gulch. That is within 1,000 feet of the
Central.
within the what is it, the alternative school, alternative learning center. That one is even within the provisions currently. So it's within that distance that the state has, and I'm not sure how that got licensed, to be honest with you. But that would be the only one that's within within 1,000 feet from school. And that one is actually 320 feet. And currently it's 1,000 feet. Or
Mr. Mayor, I
it's
guess
500 feet currently in state statute.
that prompts a follow-up question. What happens if we, I mean, I know that DOR is just getting staffed up and figuring all of this out as well. What happens if we catch something that they don't? Do I even want to ask that question?
Yeah, maybe not. Just first blush, we would let that continue as a non-conforming use from a city standpoint, and let a complaint or a question be directed to DOR directly. But we as a city would continue to let that operate with a city license.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no public comment online.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve first passage of an ordinance amending Helena City Code, Title 11, Chapter 2, Sections 11.2.3, Table 1, 11.2.4, Land Use Definitions for Zoning Districts, and 11.2.5, Supplemental Requirements of the City of Helena zoning regulations as they relate to marijuana sales and operations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider Artist Award for Centennial Trail Tunnel Mural. Okay, I see Superintendent Sampson coming up. You have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
Commissioners. Tonight, I'm here so that we can consider an artist award for the Centennial Trail Tunnel Mural. The Community Facilities Department, along with the Helena Public Art Committee, published a call for artists to commission a painted mural along the side walls of the Centennial Trail Tunnel under Last Chance Gulch between Centennial Park and Memorial Park. 13 qualified submissions were received. The Public Art Committee reviewed and scored the 13 anonymous submissions on April 17th. The top 3 finalists were discussed, and the committee voted unanimously to recommend submission number 3, artist Elise Perpinano. Staff has vetted the artist's submission and agrees with the recommendation. If the contract is awarded, the project will begin the 1st of June and be completed by the end of August. So tonight, we'd like to consider awarding the contract to artist Elise Perpignano to paint a mural on the Centennial Tunnel Trail under Last Chance Gulch for $15,000. The $15,000 is in the fiscal year 23 budget as a capital project for the Helena Public Art Committee. I do have, I want to share the draft, I guess the artist submission with everyone, so give me one second. Is that working?
Yeah, we did.
How's that?
We got it.
Okay. So this is the submission by Ms. Perkmanano. It is a rough sketch of her layout, and we'll be working with the artist to refine the content. So again, tonight we're just looking for a motion to move to award the contract. And I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Superintendent Sampson. Comments or questions from the commission? Public comments? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Maybe you turn off the lights just a moment to see that better? Is that okay? It's really hard. That's my only public comment. Can't see it.
And come on, I thought these things would.
There, that's much improved. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I would be pleased to move to award a contract with artist Elise Perpignano to install a mural on the Centennial Trail Tunnel under Last Chance Gulch between Centennial Park and Memorial Park.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Public hearings. Consider an ordinance establishing a parade, special event, tours, and vendor requirements, and amending the possession of intoxicating beverages code in the city of Helena. Manager Burton and/or Director Kanopke, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the public hearing for the revisions to the special events ordinance. As we had talked earlier, or last week, the special event, as we have gone through the special event permitting process over the last couple of years, there's been some things identified that could make the process easier for not only staff, but also for the applicants. So, you know, in hearing these, we review whatever is commented on, and if there are appropriate actions to be made, then we bring them forward. And in this case, there are a couple, as outlined in the memo, Section 511, the possession of intoxicating beverages. We're going to revise that to have the city manager be able to issue that basically waiver instead of coming to the commission every time for that. Parade 9-1, special event permits are required, and then moving some sections from 795 to 911 to basically put all the special events into one location so they're not kind of scattered throughout the code. I won't go through every change with you unless you have questions on that. Basically, the advantage is this clarifies the special events requirements and expectations and puts everything in a single location. We did not see any notable disadvantages to this, and therefore recommending the commission pass the second passage of this ordinance this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Kanopke. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
can you briefly explain what the process will be, for example, for the neighborhood block parties in terms of their options of acquiring liability insurance if they have alcohol? I got a couple more calls over last week and then another one today concerned about their ability to acquire insurance. So I'm wondering if you might be able to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners. So the process would be they would apply through the normal process. And as per city code now and moving forward, insurance is required. In checking MMIA's website, they have a little section there for special events. And they have there on there that a regular special event with no alcohol is about $59 for the insurance. And then depending on the size of the event with the alcohol, it raises up. As we heard at the last, at our budget meeting, one of the block parties said that they were able to find through Payne West insurance that covered alcohol, I think was like for $254. So they would just purchase that insurance and then apply for the application or apply for their permit, and then it would go through the normal commenting period through all the department heads, and they would receive their comments back.
Director Konopka, I heard you saying something about $59 for MMIA without alcohol. What is it with alcohol?
Mayor and Commissioners, last week we heard from the Pine Street block party that it was $254 is what they found.
MMIA?
They found it through Payne West. MMIA has a spot on their website, which we've now placed a link to, that gives a list of providers that people can call around to and find, I guess, the best bang for their buck.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk,
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve second passage of an ordinance establishing a parade, special events, tours, and vendor requirements and amending the possession of intoxicating beverages code in the city of Helena.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider a resolution to set fees charged by the Helena Police Department Support Services Division and amending resolution number 20244. I see Director Danielson is up, so you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight we have before you the public hearing to set fees to be charged by the Helena Police Department Support Services Division and amending Resolution 20244. We brought this discussion to the commission at the administrative meeting on April 5th, 2023, and it was also passed, the resolution of intention was passed by the commission 4-0 on April 24th, 2023, and this is just the public hearing in order to set the fees, and if you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Thank you, Director Danielson. Comments from the commission? Any public comments? Madam Clerk,
I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor,
Oh.
I will move to approve a resolution to set fees charged by the Helena Police Department Support Services Division and amending resolution number 20244.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution to set fees charged for the use of the Helena Civic Center and repeal resolution number 20626. Director Smith and/or Director Danielson and/or Manager Burton, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission.
Good evening.
We're here before you tonight to consider a resolution to set fees charged for the use of the Helena Civic Center and repeal Resolution 20626. Staff presented the proposed fee schedule to the Commission on April 5th, 2023 in an administrative meeting. And the resolution of intention was approved with a 4-0 vote. Staff recommendation is to move to approve a resolution to set fees charged for the use of the Helena Civic Center and repealing Resolution 20626.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
for Director Smith, just curious as to whether you got any public feedback about the proposed fees?
Excuse me, Commissioner, as it relates to the Civic Center fees,
Yes.
no, there's been no.
Thank you.
Any public comments? Madam Clerk,
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
would move to approve a resolution to set fees charged for use of the Helena Civic Center and repealing resolution number 20626.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution to establish fees to be charged for the Last Chance Splash Water Park and Pool, repealing resolution number 20332. Director Smith, you have the floor.
Mayor, Commission, here before you this evening for your consideration of a resolution to establish fees to be charged for the Last Chance Splash Water Park and repealing resolution number 20332. Staff presented the proposed fee schedule to the Commission on April 5th, 2023 in an administrative meeting. And staff recommendation is to move to approve a resolution to establish fees to be charged for the Last Chance Splash Water Park and Pool and repealing resolution number 20332.
Any discussion from the commission?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Director Smith. I got a question for you regarding the increase. What is the increase for children that are our residents and then who are not residents?
For the pool, I do not have the fee schedule in front of me today. It is in the packet on my desk. I apologize for
It's
not
okay.
having that.
I asked it rhetorically. So youth resident would go up 50 cents.
Correct.
And then non-resident would go up $1. So it's, yeah, that sounds about right. Just wanted to make that clear for the public.
Yeah, they were nominal increases.
Cool, thank you.
Commissioner, yes.
How would you distinguish residents from non-residents?
Address, zip codes.
When the kids come on a company that don't have ID?
Well, you have to be over 14 to be allowed in without a parent, Mr. Mayor.
And they don't have IDs?
And then kids don't have IDs. In some cases, you take their word for it.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Just a quick question. So there is very limited use of the season passes. Is it worth, and maybe this isn't a conversation for today since we need to pass this with the season coming up, but maybe the broader conversation about the operations overall, is it worth holding on to those passes since we have only 2 sold last year for the youth season pass and 18 for the adult season pass?
Commissioner, that's a good question. You may notice that the fee schedules throughout the Parks and Recreation Department have been simplified, condensed from many pages to 1 or 2 pages. And a lot of situations like this with other operations, things were removed that had 0 numbers next to them, and we're monitoring it on a year-to-year basis.
Okay, great, thanks. And one more comment, Mr. Mayor. I think just in context of what we discussed at the beginning of the meeting during the city manager's report, this is an ongoing discussion, and now that we have, given that there is consensus to move forward to buy us some time, Director, do you see the path forward as we are giving you time to basically figure out what the operations look like for us to break even, or at least need less of a subsidy in future seasons?
Commissioner, the answer is yes. It will buy us some time.
Great, thanks.
Commissioner Reed, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for Director Smith and Director Danielson, it's already been said mostly, but I think this is a great start. I'm glad we did have the discussion, I believe, last week that we can revisit these fees. I think it's important to take this first step, but I would like to see additional discussion. And just on the season passes, I didn't know they existed. I think a lot of people didn't know they existed. So if there is an opportunity to promote some of those things a bit more, even in the short term, I think that would be great, because I think a lot of people are unaware that that is something that they can do. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments? Yes, please come forward.
I don't know if this is the right time for it. I wanted to address what we spoke about earlier, or what you spoke. There was no opportunity for public comment earlier, but my name is Jamie Bright. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I want to discuss the rumblings of the city pool reducing operating hours and reducing the length of the operating season. While I don't know the exact timeline for this decision, I do know that the city pool staff has been made aware that these changes are on the horizon potentially. As a former lifeguard at the pool and a mother of a lifeguard that's currently working at the pool, firsthand I know the primary demographics of the population served by the city pool. I can tell you that that particular population will greatly suffer if the pool season is reduced and if operating hours are cut. Many of the lower income families have limited opportunities to enjoy time as a family in an affordable recreational settings, and the city pool is one of the only ways for these citizens to enjoy time together on the weekends. If the city's looking to tighten their belts with budget cuts, surely you'd be wiser to take money from other programs or budgets rather than taking from a group of citizens that already has so little to give. With even fewer opportunities for affordable recreation on the weekends, surely you know exactly what types of activities we'll be engaged in when the pool patrons are left with facing weekend pool closures and a reduced operating season. Please do not provide more idle time for the children in lower demographics. Right now is the best time for more enrichment to be given to the lower income and underprivileged groups. We want to reduce drug usage, crime, violence. We must provide more opportunities for safe and fun recreation and enrichment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. But just to clarify that, I think we discussed that they were going to we're going to be funding through a one-time use of ARPA money. So
understood. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
I understand that. I think moving forward, we need to make it more than just a Band-Aid. This is not just a one-time problem. So
I hear you, and the city manager was given the go-ahead to look at a more stable solution.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Ann Wakeman, and I'm here to say thank you for ARPA money. A Band-Aid is a wonderful thing when you need it, and our pool needs it, so I appreciate the creative thinking that led you down that path. The pool is critically important, ditto what my friend just said. It is a wonderful opportunity for families. I would love to see the pool hours expand rather than shrink. Number one, swimming is a very important safety skill, and due to the lack of pool access that many of our kids have in town, not all of them swim. I was working with a teenager, getting enough driving hours in, and he, as a teenager in our high school, can't swim. That bothers me in this area of rivers and boats and lakes. How can we have students that don't know how to swim? We don't have enough pool access. So expanding hours in the summer, making this a more available activity for families, I think is very important as we move forward. I'm a senior swimmer, AKA a master swimmer, and I love that big pool. It's critical if you're going to swim in meets to have access to a 50-meter pool, because maybe you can beat people in your age group if you practice a little bit. So know that there are senior swimmers who really appreciate the opportunity to swim in a bigger pool. And it's a lovely place to be. We have a great facility that we should be very proud of and try to expand what we're doing to promote it to the community, talk about what we have. There are costs involved, I understand this, but there are other ways to balance budgets. Having managed budgets, I sure get the challenges that you face, and I appreciate the level of detail that you have to deal with. But please don't give up on our pool. Please don't simply accept that cutting back is what we have to do. There are those of us that would happily work with you to find better answers in the future. I'm so glad we have a Band-Aid for now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Please. Yes.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Cindy Sparing. I'm a nurse by vocation and actually have experience as an aquatic director for 15 years at a facility here in town, of which we ran it fairly successfully. And my questions are just on revenue that's being generated with swimming lessons, what swimming pools need in our city pool, because I do observe it as the mother of a lifeguard at the city pool and a grandmother of a lifeguard at the city pool. I maintained attachment there, even though I'm not involved in the aquatic community anymore. But I do know that a successful aquatic facility does need a successful revenue stream. And I don't see that in those little tiny increment daily increases that have been proposed in the repealing of that resolution 20332. But my question is, for revenue stream, I don't know what's happening with swimming lessons.
Excuse me, ma'am.
My question is, how can I access that information, like how many swimming lessons are being taught, instructor hours, what the instructors are being paid, how much is being charged for those lessons? I can see online what the old fee schedule was, but I don't know if this is being addressed as a new, in the repealing of that and how that's going to work. But again, that city pool should be one of the biggest attractions during the summer for the city of Helena. It does need to have some type of something as a revenue stream bringing in consistent dollars, not really related to those daily entrance fees, because those go up and down with the weather. But if you have something consistent, such as swim lessons or rental fees or those things, then you have a better and more reliable revenue stream. And that's just based upon my experience, where I had to have a pool facility making money for the owners. So anyway, those are my questions. Who would answer those for me?
No one will answer them at
Okay.
this point.
Okay.
This is public comments. And so
Oh, thank you.
So,
I
but
thought this was the
your
question
answers-
and answer period.
you can get your answers from the city manager
Okay.
after this or at a later
Thank you. So those are my questions, and yes, and my comments then should be biggest attraction for the city during this summer months. And then since we do get to do comments and not just questions, as this was explained earlier, please understand the YMCA pool is closing for the summer. So one more pool is being taken out of action. They'll reopen in September. The city pool will be closed then from those last 2 weeks of August, so there will be no real access to pools. The other pools in Helena, Capital City, the Broadwater, the East Crossroads, all charge fairly significant fees for public usage, $12 to $20 per time. The East Helena pool will run June 12th through the end of August. I think that's a great example. Shall we be looking at that too? What are they doing out there for revenue stream? I noticed that their calendar was pretty booked up online as far as what they're doing for swim lessons and activities. And I don't know how that compares side by side with our city pool here in Helena, but maybe something to explore as well, how our neighbor in East Helena is. So as long as we're commenting, those are some things that I found out. But I think it's very important, again, that be a big attraction for our city. Certainly something people look at when they come into town is, where can I take my kids swimming besides the hotel? Because you can rent the Best Western, by the way. But it's not appropriate for true swimming. And then again, as somebody mentioned too, swim lessons are vital. I've taught hundreds and hundreds of children how to swim. I can't even imagine how many lives have not been lost because those kids learned how to swim. And so those are things that city pool is. And I think we as citizens of
this great city are responsible for that too. So there's my thoughts, and those are my questions, and I guess we speak later. Thank you.
Thank you, and I
Thank you.
appreciate your comments. In fact, you taught my kids, so I know
I
that.
did teachers. I was going to dig out my stacks of records, and I'm like, I remember your kiddo. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Please.
Thank you. I'm Ann Gilbert. I'm a longtime swim coach. I'm the race director for the Montana Women's Triathlon. I'm a retired nurse at the St. Peter's Hospital. And I am passionate about swimming, primarily from a health standpoint of, I believe that swimming is the best sport ever. It's the only sport you can do all your life, from zero to, Charlotte has shown us, 100 years old. It's a great rehab for people at the hospital. It's just, like I said, the best sport ever. But as a community, we have an obligation to promote the safety part of swimming. Montana is third in the nation in drowning rates, and that comes back to us. And whatever we can do to promote that in our community is wonderful. I want to thank you all for not closing the pool, for not reducing the hours that are already established. I was concerned that the weekends were going to be shut down for the kids, that's when their parents can take them, but thank you for keeping that alive. I would also like to push for having a longer season. I know that Missoula opens on Memorial Day and they close on Labor Day. I think that's totally workable. I can't imagine that what you put into the pool to open it for only, 6 weeks or 7 weeks, that it can't stretch out another 4 weeks. I can understand why the splash park and the need for more lifeguards with all that stuff, which is great in the summer. But I work with and swim with a lot of adults, the Helena Masters, and connected well there, and they would love to be able to swim outside for the entirety of summer from those holidays. So I hope that in your discussions that you can figure that out. I was also a lifeguard. It was the first, Dairy Queen was my first job, but I quickly figured out that lifeguard would be better. So when I was 15, I became a lifeguard, and as a high school student all the way through, that's what I did. I lifeguarded. The thing I hear about the city pool is we have to close early because all the kids go back to college. I don't get it. I mean, I don't know what the miss is other than we don't have high school swimming. We don't teach our kids in the city how to swim, which is another thing. But I think that the city pool has a great opportunity to promote this in our community, safety, and I'm happy to help whatever discussions that need to happen to get more kids in the pool. And that's what we do with the Women's Triathlon. We get more women in the water, hoping that that passes down to their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? Madam Clerk, any online?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one hand raised, if you give me just a moment. Elizabeth Kraus.
You have the floor, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say, one, thank you for all of your solutions proposed tonight, and two, I believe that there could be an opportunity to charge a lot more for people who want to see this pool succeed and want to support people in the community who may not be able to afford private health club fees. And so I just am hoping in this conversation of the long-term solution for this pool that we'll think about how we might be able to earn more revenue from people who would willingly and maybe even enthusiastically support this pool.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do we have any others?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no other public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to approve a resolution to establish fees to be charged for the Last Chance Splash Water Park and Pool, and repealing resolution number 20332.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Consider a resolution to establish fees to charge for the City of Helena parks and open land uses and recreation programs and repealing resolution number 20602. Director Smith, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, Commission, we have before you today to consider a resolution to establish fees to be charged for the City of Helena parks and open space uses and recreation programs, and repealing resolution number 20602. Staff presented the proposed fee schedule to the Commission on April 5th, 2023 in an administrative meeting. The resolution of intention was approved in the Commission meeting with a motion vote of 4-0. Staff recommendation, move to approve the resolution to establish fees to be charged for the City of Helena park and open space uses and recreation programs, and repealing resolution 20602.
Thanks, Director Smith. Comments from the Commission?
Mr. Mayor, just one final question. On the courts and field fees, so we have not been charging prior to this proposed resolution. We haven't been charging for camps and tournaments field use.
What?
It's listed as 0 for current rate. That's why I ask.
Commissioner, without the document in front of me, I'm uncertain.
Okay.
One of the things, excuse me, Mayor, Commission, one of the things when we were adjusting our fee schedule was eliminating some and combining some because there were duplication of rentals and services. So that is a new line item term by condensing multiple previous line items in the fee schedule.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the Commission? Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk,
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner.
I'll move to approve a resolution to establish fees to be charged for City of Helena park and open space uses and recreation programs and repealing resolution number 20602.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, do we have any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm very sorry. I was trying to find the fee so I could ask a question. It took me longer than I thought. Could I ask a very quick question?
Please.
If we have somebody who is, I'm not sure how we're defining busking. I know there was some legislation around that, but forgive me, I did not read it. If we have someone like a balloon person on the walking mall, would they fall under busking? And if they wanted to be out there for more than 30 days, would they be paying the $450, or is that a different category?
Commissioners, the busking is new to the fee schedule due to the balloon street performer busker who have moved to Helena. He has chosen the $700 annual fee to busk. And I'm not sure if I answered your question. What was the exact question, Commissioner?
That was, so we have a seasonal is $450.
Okay.
I'm not seeing an annual for
No, I misspoke. I'm sorry. It's $450 for the busking. I misspoke. I was referring to the $700 annual fee that we do for the food trucks.
Okay, and so a quick question, when we set that fee, since it is new, was there consultation with people who would be impacted by that? Because I don't know, how 450 resonates with someone selling balloons, so I don't know how much outreach there was around that category.
There's not much, excuse me, Commissioner, there's not much outreach. It is new. It is new to the fee schedule. It is, street performers fall under this as well, and they're growing, as we speak, much like the food truck industry has. It started with a couple, and now there's 10. And we see the trend heading in that direction with the busking and street performing as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, just a quick follow-up.
Please.
Perhaps it is my ancient roots in a different place, but I think having street performers may be something that is something good for our downtown and can be a useful feature. I'm a little concerned about how high that fee is, given the income stream of somebody who does that. So I don't know what our options are. If we pass this now and it seems like we're getting feedback that fee is just too high, given that it is a new category, would we be able to reconsider that down the road in 6 months or so if we're hearing that is cost prohibitive?
Thank you, Commissioner. A better question, how did we get to the fees?
We did market research from the communities and worked with the busker himself to talk about his experiences throughout the country, what other cities charge, and we researched that as well. And they kind of fall into the food truck category, but they're not quite there. So we're in line with other communities and have had zero negative feedback from buskers.
Well, I will side with you, Commissioner, and maybe we can look at it and see where it goes after here. Any other comments or questions from the Commission? Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
You see that?
I have no public comment.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there's a motion.
Oh, yeah, we did that before. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final, okay, has it been seconded? Any final discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Dean?
Aye.
Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the Commission? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, and just one final comment, Manager Burton. We've had some joint projects with the county. I believe we need to start talking about some of our other projects that we know that the county access, i.e. we're struggling with swimming, i.e. we're struggling with golf course. Those things, maybe we need to start talking to the county to, see what they can do from their end. Just my 1 cent.
Thank you, Mayor, and I think that point's well taken.
Any other comments? This meeting is adjourned.